Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of the Future Proof Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Muller. Today, my guest is Randy Lorensen. Randy's from Premium Cabinets. Randy, just a pleasure to have you today.
Thanks for having me, Brett. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So let's jump right in. So let's talk about your background and kind of tell everybody that's listening a little bit about you.
Yeah, grew up in central Minnesota, farm kid, and just everything that went with that. Kind of I guess a fairly typical childhood. Went off to university at the University of Minnesota, and had no idea what I wanted to do. More had ideas. I knew I didn't want to farm. I didn't want to log. I didn't want to work construction. A lot of the different things that were done around me.
Right.
Kind of searching for my place in the world. While I was in college, I got a job selling knives, Cutco cutlery, which I would say, changed my course. I was an engineering major, went from a mechanical engineering major to selling knives with literally zero desire to sell anything and no set for it, no ability, but I was determined and I was competitive, and I was like, well, if these other people can do it, I can do it, and I'll be damned if I'm gonna, let them show me up. And I figured it out. Right. And I ground and struggled for a while and got a little better. And then from there, I actually left college after my third year to go open a summer office for them. It was supposed to be a branch, but I had figured out that I didn't want to be an engineer. School wasn't really my thing. I was I was bored, and the entrepreneurial bug definitely hit me. I mean, I'd had a lawn service business, even in high school. It was my first business, but I opened an office and I was making more money at 20 years old than I would with an engineering degree. And I don't know, it was the place for me for a while. It wasn't the long-term place, but for a few years I did that, moved through that company. And I've just, been a serial entrepreneur over the years and have done numerous things. When I left there, I got into, not directly, but I was giving stop smoking seminars, and actually went fairly well. And then I switched to a different company and they stole a bunch of money from us and didn't work. I went broke and delivered pizzas, and I'm trying to give you the Reader's Digest.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. This is perfect.
And then during the original .com boom, which followed by the bust,
right,
people that I'd worked with in the past reached out to me, and we went and I worked with that company, and that seemed to be going very well. We had a tremendously successful website called collegeclub.com, and I was out, hiring teams of reps to promote it on campuses. That's what brought me from Minnesota to Central Texas. I was come here. We were trying to buy our biggest competitor, and I was pretty much ordered to come here and crush them. Oh, that's what I did. And that was going well. And we all thought we were rich because we had lots of stock. And then the bubble burst, and all of a sudden our stock wasn't worth anything anymore. And
been in your shoes.
Boy, along the line, I had an energy efficiency company. I was early, I was early to the .com boom. I was early to energy efficiency, although while that was growing, I started playing poker during the slow season on my friend's kitchen.
I had that
plate.
in my notes. We had to make sure we touched on that.
Yeah, and found out I was good at it. Just wasn't the plan. They taught me how to play, and I just kind of won. And I spent 8 years. I guess I call it my backpacking Europe phase, but it was more, living at Caesar's Palace in Vegas, more thing. But I spent 8 years playing poker for a living, and from there, ended up wanting to be a contributing member of society once again. And I ended up starting a cabinet business thinking, this is something I can do. There's good opportunity here. I can build this for a year or two while I figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life. And boy, 15 years later or so, now we have 35 locations and spread across the country.
Fantastic.
You want to dig into any of those, you can, but there's
just one question, because I know if I'm thinking it, a lot of viewers are thinking of it. How easy or stressful was the 8 years of being a professional?
I think most people can't do it, right? There's a lot of skill sets involved, the discipline it takes, the money management skills, all of the distractions, right? You're in a casino. You're not necessarily surrounded by priests and,
Yes.
librarians here.
Yes.
Whether it's the craps table, sports betting, strip clubs, drugs, there's a lot of poker players that fall into all of those, right?
Yeah.
And pretty much played and did my thing and moved on from it. But, it's a skill set. And so a lot of it applies to business, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's things that carry over, but it also, I wouldn't recommend it as a long-term. I'm glad I did it, but I wouldn't recommend it as a long-term for anybody.
A lot of life lessons, right? But not a lifestyle.
I don't know if I was naive, but I didn't know people that had been to jail. I didn't know drug dealers and pimps from, I didn't, and I don't know, in the poker community, especially at high stakes, I wasn't playing low stakes. I was playing high stakes. You are exposed to a lot of those people, right? And
absolutely.
Situations that,
good and bad flows to money, right?
Yeah. I met some really cool people doing it, right? Professional athletes and movie stars and entrepreneurs and doctors and really successful people playing at high levels. But I also, it was a broad range.
Yeah, I can imagine. Let's turn to premium, right? So let's talk about your, so you started Premium, right? I think was that the original name, or do you have a different name in the beginning?
Originally it was. I'm in Austin, Texas, so originally it was called Centex Cabinets. And we started growing nationally. Nobody knew it. Centex is short for Central Texas, and a fairly name around Austin, right?
Right.
If you talk to somebody in Florida, they're like, Centex? Or what? It wasn't a very good name for a national expansion.
Got it. So let's talk about the evolution of Premium, right? So you started this in what year?
I always forget. 2009, I think. It was 2008, 2009. Not a great time to start a cabinet company, by the way, during, the great financial crisis.
Right.
When I started, I shopped 15 competitors. Within a year and a half, basically all of them were gone except for Home Depot and Lowe's. They'd all gone out of business. So not a great time to start a cabinet business, but I would also say in a lot of ways it was a great time because it forced me to develop methods, manage costs, and do things in the right way so that we could build from strength. So
right.
Foundation.
Right. So talk about your model and how you grew it to the 35 locations.
Well, it started as me, right? And my friend had called me. He lived up in Michigan and told me to, come look at this. And that, I had been turning down job offers for the last 8 years. But at first I was getting multiple people calling me a month when they found out that I was available. And then if they know, the calls were really, that was part of my decision too. I was like, gee, people are forgetting about me, or there's, at some point it's going to be a lot harder. And doors seem to be closing because you can only say no so much.
Right.
Back to your question, I started out and there wasn't really a great model. So I had my friend in Michigan. We had a couple other mutual, acquaintances, a guy in Canada and a guy in Boston. And we would jump on phone calls and share, but really we were figuring it out. So cabinets up to that point had primarily been either, the Home Depot, the Lowe's, the IKEA stuff, or there was custom. And custom can be anything from, a $250,000 custom kitchen to the cheapest cabinets you can ever imagine that people just throw together, right? Are all different levels of custom. Well, most things we buy are manufactured. When you go buy a car, nobody really, I'd say nobody, but almost nobody buys a custom car. Or you go buy an iPhone and your phone, they say it comes in these 3 colors and has these specs.
Right.
Well, some of the Chinese companies started manufacturing cabinets in that way and creating manufactured cabinets in common sizes, common colors, common SKUs, and doing it with good quality materials. The same quality materials you'd find in a high-end custom cabinet, only at a fraction of the price, and in fact, cheaper than the stuff people found at the big box stores. And so it was figuring out how to sell it, but it was a new market. It's still just a cabinet. I mean, a cabinet box with a fancy door. It's not that complex.
Right.
And there wasn't, the people that I talked to were just putting ads on Craigslist. And so I started with that. But I thought, I did billboards and I did magazines. And this is back, people still used the newspaper back then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was the transition. The newspaper was already not working very well.
Right.
And I'd had a history of some other things I'd done. I'd done a lot of newspaper and a lot of that type of advertising.
Right.
And I tried a little bit of everything. When I was doing the energy efficiency business, I had done quite a bit. Radio was our primary thing. And I tried, I was doing a lot of different, I don't even know. I just kept throwing money at the wall, seeing,
What stuck, right?
marketing, 50% of marketing doesn't work. I just don't know which half. And
Right.
trying to figure that out and just slowly growing, slowly figuring out even who the market was, how to sell it, and what the pitch is and what the process and everything, right? And so it started from there. As I grew, I had a good friend in Tulsa. His name's Gary. He's now my partner, and he was actually my partner in the energy efficiency business as well. And, I was like, you really ought to check this cabinet business out. He was in furniture and he wasn't real happy with furniture at the time. And I said, this is better. And he said, there's still too much shit in the ground. I need you to step in some more cow patties, but you need to figure this out more. And so that went on for 6 months or a year. And finally he came to the conclusion I'd stepped in enough cow patties, and he came down and he came. And I had a friend in LA, and then, pretty soon Gary told his cousin in Oklahoma City. And, we just through word of mouth, we added people in St. Louis and Chicago and different markets, right? Through word. Right. And what we really did is we ended up trying to be a middleman. And we went to our manufacturers and said, look, here's our pricing. If we put all of us together as one buying group, what would the price be? And if it was 10% more, so really what Premium, the national company, became a conglomerate to really a buying group is almost how it started.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could buy it for 90 cents on the dollar and sell it for the dollar because of our volume. That was the plan. And then from there, it's just been growing and a lot more experimenting, not that different than the marketing, right? And figuring out, independent dealers. We sold licensees for a while, which actually worked pretty well. But then we decided, God, the money is really in the retail operation. We started some corporate stores. We had 4 of those, which we have since sold off. We got them profitable, but it wasn't, I could argue it's still a great strategy, but it wasn't our core skill set. In the meantime, we had created really good programs and systems and processes. I am very good at figuring out how to do something, what works, how to do it, change this, change that, experiment with it, document it, and creating those programs. I'm even good at teaching people. I'm not good at managing them in the day-to-day. The day-to-day minutia of managing, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Now, why do you think that most founders and CEOs have an integrator as to do all of that, right? The visionary integrator, you've heard that a zillion times, but it's a different skill set and a different driver, right? If that's not your driver, right, that's not something you should be doing. I totally get it.
Yeah. So the corporate stores, we got them profitable, but we also, COVID hit during that time, and COVID really, we had bootstrapped this company. We had no debt. We'd taken out a small loan one time just to build some technology that we'd paid back, but we were pretty much bootstrapped, debt-free, profitable company. COVID hit and we got pounded, and we took on massive, massive debt. Because at this point now we're not only running the national company, but we had 4 corporate stores, which were just barely getting profitable. And now we've got staff in 4 corporate stores. We've got rent. We've got all these things, and government saying, well, you can't.
Right.
And
right. You're not essential. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of the remodeling industry did really, really well during COVID, because people would look at their back deck and go, or their windows, and say, oh, we need to improve this. Right. But when they're telling you can't go out to eat, people don't necessarily want to tear the kitchen apart. And so it was not great for us for a while. And we've just been rebuilding from there. And now we are back to just bringing on independent dealers. We're good at creating the programs and the systems. And it's been, the challenge over the years is that the cabinet business is actually pretty complex, very complex compared to other things in construction.
Right.
The analogy I always give is flooring. If we go and we have a room or somebody wants new flooring, whether it doesn't matter if it's tile,
Carpet, hardwood, right?
They go, they measure the room, they order 15, 20% more, right? If it's 1,000 square feet, they order, say, 1,200 square feet, and you open a box and there's damage. Who cares? You throw some away. Or somebody makes a mistake cutting, you throw it away. Plus, they're all the same. Every piece of tile or carpet is exactly the same, right?
Right.
Whereas with cabinets, it has to fit between two walls, and sometimes you have to get down to the 16th of an inch, and you need really exact, and certain cabinets go in certain places, and if something's damaged, you can't just throw that away and pick a new one. So,
right.
And you're dealing with water lines and gas lines. I mean, it's not rocket scientist. I don't want to, science. I don't want to oversell.
No, but I think people are more particular about the kitchen than any other room in the house, right? So I get that.
Yeah. So the learning curve and learning design and learning all the little things tends to be longer. So we have spent a lot of time just always refining our programs, our systems. How do we make them simpler? How do we make it easier? And getting an independent dealer that could market and they can sell and they can deliver and run the back end operations of a business and get referrals and handle the money and get reviews and just pay sales tax and all the different things an entrepreneur has to do.
Right.
That's a unicorn. Those people they either don't exist or they're very few and far between. Most people are either good at the front end of the business, the sales part, or the back end of the operations, right? And they need to hire accordingly. So, but most people don't accept that or realize that out of the gate.
Right.
And so we're constantly working at simplifying. We did a lot early with marketing. Now we're working on the back end and operations where we can work with somebody that's got more of a sales focus. And we've made the operation so easy that it's okay. They don't need quite as extensive of a skill set.
No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So, as you look across, and over the last few years, what's been the biggest shift in the industry, right? Did COVID just upend everything?
Yeah. I mean, COVID, there've been a lot of things that have changed. COVID, the way it really upended things is what it's done to shipping. Shipping is drastically different than it was before COVID. And it really started before that with tariffs, by the way. Trump's tariffs were 25% on the cabinet industry. And the companies that say, if you go back to them, the companies that said we are 100% made in America, yet their prices went up 25%. Why?
Right.
Because all their stuff came from China, right? They came from America, but when everybody went up 25% without exception, right?
Right.
Just the plywood that goes in a box, we don't make it here. Right? We cut down trees here. This is how crazy the economy. We cut down trees, whether it's the U.S. or Canada or Germany or China or Russia or wherever, and they ship them to China to have them milled and turned into plywood and then send them back. So the tariffs hit, and then what COVID really did, there were supply chain holes and issues, but trucking has it used to be that if I wanted a shipment from California, or here's a better, if we buy cabinets by a container.
Mm-hmm.
Before COVID, sometime if we bought a whole container of cabinets, it was a couple $2,500 $2,500 to ship it, and it took 2 weeks to get it from China to, say, Long Beach. Now, well, let's say during the height of COVID, I forget, but it was well over 20,000. I think we paid 26,000 for one container, and they quoted us 9 weeks. But instead of 2 weeks, they quoted us 9 weeks, and I don't think it got here in 9 weeks. And it was just the ports were so backed up that the ship was just sitting out there.
Just sitting out there waiting to be unloaded, right?
Right. And then once it got unloaded, there weren't enough trucks to take it, from there. But same thing, getting trucks shipped, it's just shipping costs have gone up 300%, 400%, 500%. So what that has done is a lot of these manufacturers that used to be really heavily focused around the Long Beach port, and they were in Raleigh and they were in New Jersey. They've spread out across the country now. So they've got, instead of having one big location, they might have 3 or 5 spread across the country to try and offset some of that shipping charge.
Got it.
And so there's a lot more competition. Direct manufacturers here, here in Austin, there weren't any. There was nobody located here.
Right.
And we got 6. In fact, one came across, I think we got a 7th that just came across this morning that I was completely unaware of, and they're selling to the public. So there's a lot more competition with certain things and too much. I mean, my opinion is the free market some of them need to consolidate, go, whatever. There's a little too much expansion there. Got
it. So as you look down the road, right, what's the next 1-2 years? I think it's too crazy to look any further out than that these days. Things just change too much. What do you see over the next couple of years? How's the industry going to shift?
New what we call the BUILT program, but it's a simplified version of the back end of the business, I think is really well suited for this time. I mean, I'm an economics nerd on the side, and so I go pretty deep into this stuff, and I won't bore listeners with all of it, but the economy has not been great. I mean, it's like, I really dig into, I get a marketing report every month, right? From our Google and our analytics, and I dig in by location. And starting in April or May, I think it was May of 2023, we had a pretty even, slow growth in people coming to our website, form fills, conversions.
Right.
And all of a sudden, June of 2023 was lower, and July was lower, and August was lower, and September. Every month since then has been a decrease, despite adding new locations. And I'm frankly was freaking out about this. Still am, right? I mean, this is the lifeblood of our business.
Absolutely.
And, we have 4 pillars to the business, and the first one is driving 2 quotes per day per salesperson. So that is the very first pillar. The second one is converting those and then delivering cabinets and getting 2 reviews a day. But it is so I went deep with our SEO, SEM, pay-per-click company, et cetera. And it turns out that wasn't just us, that was Google. People searching kitchen cabinets or bathroom cabinets, or, doesn't matter if it's cabinets Austin, cabinets Chicago, cabinets Denver, had dropped more than, with less than half over 2024.
Yeah.
And it had been, so Google searches have just been going down, down, down. I think we're at the bottom. There seems to be enthusiasm, and it seems like this month, I hope it's not short-lived. It seems like we're moving up, but I think this is a little bit like 08, 09. We're going to learn how to build a business from strength and how to do it right. And we have a program it doesn't cost our dealers very much to get started. They don't have a lot of overhead. It makes it easy, but I think it's that I'm spending a lot of time with AI. And I know you and I talked about that previously a little bit, but there's, my dream is that I can take AI and make the design process, which is where a lot of the stress comes from a dealer, being able to take what the customer wants and design it and give them a quote and really simplify that and make that learning curve go down. And I'm working on some things with that. I have done a lot with just using it for marketing, using it. We had a really good sales manual and playbooks, but me and my partner Gary and our trainer, we went through with AI and just made it better, made it more concise, made it. So there's a lot of uses if people know how to use AI right. I don't think most people understand prompting.
They don't.
And so I think one of the best, one of my kids who's in college, his friend is staying with us right now because he's got a internship with the Boring Company. And he was talking about how his friend said that the best education he's had throughout college is he spent $20 to take a prompting class. And AI, it's changed the impact of AI. And I think that's right. I mean, in my case, I tried joining a group called AI for Entrepreneurs or going to a meetup, and I could never make it because it was on Saturdays and I was out of town with my kid on recruiting visits every Saturday. And finally, I contacted the guy and said, can you do this any other day? And he goes, well, join my class on how to write a book in 5 days with AI. I was like, I don't want to write a book. He goes, you'll learn it better. You'll learn the prompting. You'll actually learn more than you do in the meetup. I joined his group, took his word for it. Sure enough, I wrote a book in 5 days, but I mostly just played with AI and played with the prompts. And so I really learned a lot. By the way, 2 years later, I'm now rewriting the book for about the 4th time. I actually found out I really like it and enjoy it. It's, but it got me started on that journey. And
I tell everybody, this is a great example. I tell everybody, get started somewhere, one area, because you will learn so much, right, in that. And it's amazing, right, what you can do with it. Yeah.
yeah.
So how do you think it's going to impact, to me, right, what you're doing with the design part with AI? Yeah. Any other areas you see it impacting your industry in general? And whether it's cabinets in general, or if you want to go holistically to home remodel, building?
I think it's going to change the world. And, I very much believe they're what do you call them? Luddites have always been worried, whether you go back and they worried about a new piece of machinery, taking people out, or, I think the original name came from back in England. There were all of a sudden when sewing machines came, instead of making stockings,
right.
And, they thought, oh my God, you're ending all these people's jobs. But what happened is, yes, the hand knit stockings went away, but instead of just the royalty being able to buy them and the very rich, all of a sudden everybody could afford stockings. And I want to say they ended up having like 100 times as many people working, making stockings as what they had previous, because it went to the market. And
amen.
Thousands of years of history of this has happened over and over and over and over again. Yeah. Every time we think technology is going to, make things obsolete, the new thing creates more opportunity, opens more doors.
100%.
I'm 100% on this. And this is the first thing in a long time with AI that I'm a little bit worried. There's a little part of me that thinks, God, we have thousands of years of history, but is this the one that breaks the chain? Because I do think between that, humanoid robots, I've heard with Brett Adcock at Figure, I've heard Elon Musk talk about with Tesla, their Tesla robots. Thinking about, 10, 20, 30 billion humanoid robots in the next 10 years, right? And combining with AI, I am wondering how many jobs will be left, right? I have a Tesla that drives itself, and it's amazing. It drives better than any human. It really does. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm just
and we're just getting started with it. So yeah.
Yeah. And so I do think between that, I think 3D printing has fascinated me for years. I'm a little disappointed with how slowly that's growing.
Yeah, I agree.
But I do think combining all those, and
you haven't even mentioned quantum computing, right? Which is the next, you start to go there. Yeah, and you're right. It does get scary there.
Yeah. Well, boy, what I understand of quantum computing, when quantum computing comes, we become, I don't want to say we become gods, but we
it changes everything.
We can kind of do anything, right? Like it really does. It changes everything. I'm not as convinced I feel like quantum computing is sort of like fusion. I've been hearing about fusion energy my whole life.
Right.
And we're just a year away or 5 years away, and we still don't have it. I feel much the same way about quantum computing, but honestly, I'm really probably not close.
It's on the horizon, but how far out, who knows, right? I totally get it.
But all right, technology is growing, and I just think that right now it's being flexible, adaptable is really important for, I think for business. I think about my kids that are in college and what they're going to have to do, being with people, certainly, I think are going to be open, but I think as entrepreneurs, we have to be open to the technology and the chain, and we're going to have to try stuff and see what works. And
hey, look, you did it with your marketing, right? You're just do it with AI, right? Yeah, and we'll talk about some other stuff for sure, Randy. So to wrap up, right? I always ask a couple of questions. One, what's something besides the book? Is there any other cool things you've done personally with AI as a founder or CEO?
I think I covered them. I mean, the book has been the interesting thing, but I feel like I'm forgetting something. But I'm working on the design. I mean, the design.
Yeah, well, that's your pet project. So sure, yeah, that's it.
The design that's underway would be the real game changer.
Yeah,
that.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. And you and we'll have to have you back so you get to give us an update when you get it going. So, and I told you I was going to ask. I ask this always my last question. All right, before you tell everybody about how to get in touch with Premium, is if you had a magic wand and you could fix one thing to help you hit your target, right? Whether that's new locations or hitting your two quotes per day per a salesperson, to hit your growth targets in the next 12 months, what would that one thing be?
Good people. It's finding the right dealers. We have, we're advertising, looking for dealers all the time. And most of the people they're not the right people. They're not the right fit, whether it's culturally, they may not fit our core values and our culture, desire, how they want to run the business. So really just having the right people that can follow a system, are coachable, that want to be successful. A lot of people don't think big enough, right? And they think too small. That's another problem. And, I'd rather have somebody that can come in and we can start from there instead of having to spend 5 years. We've got some dealers that they came in, thinking too small, and it took me years and years and years to get them going to the next level and figuring things out so they can make the income they were capable of. I'd say more than anything, it's the right people.
That's great. And last thing, for anyone that is watching this and wants to get in, again, we'll throw all the links out when it goes live, but Randy, tell them how to get in touch with you guys at Premium.
Premiumcabinets.com. They can find us, and locations across the country, wherever they're at. If they go to premiumcabinets.com, it's got all the contact info for locations. I'm on Twitter, Randy Lorensen. I mean, there's only one of me with that name. I've also got a podcast with a partner, John Oberg, called Tales of Abundance, where we, talk about abundance in general. So talesofabundance.com. I would say any of those places would be great places, depending on what they're looking for.
Awesome. Well, Randy, it has been a pleasure. I love interviewing you. It's obvious that, this is not your first podcast, which is great. And I look forward to catching up with you later in the year and hearing about the progress that you guys have made.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And so, hey, for everybody out there, we'll have this podcast up live in a few weeks. And so look for it. But Randy, thank you again.
Thank you. Have a great day.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.